Wow, look at this. What am I meant to do with all this space? There's so much room for activity. This is crazy. I could film a whole music video in here. In fact, that would be a funny thing to do, wouldn't it? Welcome, I guess. Welcome to Lichfield Garrick Theatre. That is where we're playing today. That's where I'll be gracing the stage later on this afternoon. It's a matinee show, so at the moment it's 9:45 in the morning. Just another day in the life. That's a nice touch. Very nice touch indeed. Growing up playing in bands, I never even considered the idea of playing in theatres. Being someone that fell in love with punk rock music, I found myself in grimy little venues where you'd be lucky if there was even a stage, let alone a backstage. You'd be lucky if you even got a cupboard to put your gear in. But my old band Ghouls, we did manage to graduate from what some refer to as the toilet circuit. So called because there's a fair few venues that are literally the old toilets to a building. And we found ourselves playing some bigger, more legitimate venues. Now, however, as ARP, I find myself playing as part of a touring theatre show. We're now 5 shows in. 5 shows. And I've started to piece together some of the main differences as well as similarities between what it's like as a touring musician in a band playing venues versus the life of a touring musician who's playing theatre shows. So first off, let me quickly just define what I mean by venues. A venue, in this context at least, refers to a place that is exclusively for music performance. There's a room with a stage in it and a big area for people to stand and watch the band or artist. A theatre, on the other hand, is very similar in a way, except the room with the stage will have seats that rise up. Some examples of venues might be the Camden Assembly, which used to be called the Barfly back in the day, through to something like Brixton Academy, all the way through to maybe like the O2 Arena. Although I'm yet to experience any stadiums or arena shows, so we'll leave them be for this video, but let's make sure that they are included in a future video, shall we? It's pretty easy to know if a theatre is a theatre, usually because the word theatre is in the name. But the buildings themselves are very similar to that of their sister venues. You have a main entrance area, you have the space where the magic happens, the stage, you have some kind of backstage dressing room area, and then maybe you have like a load-in bay, a reception, a bar. In my experience of playing smaller venues, there's not always any kind of load-in bay. I've got many memories of my old band playing venues where we have to park the van on a busy road and you're lugging a kick drum out the back doors whilst there's cars and angry drivers shouting at you. Crazy times, man. Whoa! Oh my god, you know, he jumped so bad. You hear that? Can you hear that? That's this speaker here. That speaker there, playing the audio from what's going on stage, which is what I can hear if I'm back here during the show to know when I'm supposed to go on. See, I come from the venue world, right? Like, I played in a band for 8 years, and prior to that I was playing in bands when I was at school. So I'm very used to the venue world, and my old band played some pretty legit venues. You know, we toured the O2 Academies here in the UK. We played Brixton Academy once. We went around Australia, went around the US. So I know what venues are like. But theatres are all new to me. These are my first ever theatre shows this year. And I'm noticing similarities, but I'm noticing differences too. Something that I'm definitely trying to get used to at least is dressing rooms. As said, my old band were lucky if we had a cupboard to even put the gear. So it's very unusual for me to be in these big, huge spaces and have them all to myself. There's showers, there's toilets, there's kettles, there's microwaves, there's fridges, there's endless mirrors. And I guess it makes sense because theatres are designed for big production. You have pantomimes and musicals, and sometimes the cast is like 30 plus people. So there's these great big backstage areas. Some of the bigger venues my old band played did have a similar type of backstage situation. Although I don't remember the rooms themselves being anywhere near as big as some of the ones I've been in these theatres. It also took years and years of touring in smaller venues, in these toilet circuit basement shows, for us to even entertain the idea of having a backstage. You got to do a mid warm-up tea break. Whereas relative to that journey, where I am in my journey as ARP and as a theatre musician currently, I'm already in the backstage area. I already have a dressing room. It's very surreal, and you're not sharing them with other bands on the bill or anything like this. It's bonkers, man. I'm not sure that it's always the case, but I'm definitely not complaining.
Ladies and gentlemen, please note that recording of any type is prohibited during this performance. Please switch your mobile phones to silent, make yourselves comfortable, and prepare to experience the wonders of our universe.
Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state that nearly 14 billion years ago expansion started with. Then the earth began to cool the other.
Venue staff. Venue staff. I've got some hilarious stories of all the different characters I've met across the years of touring in different countries and meeting various venue staff, technicians, promoters, venue owners. There's some characters out there, man. The staff required for a venue and a theatre are pretty much the same. It's very similar job titles. There's usually some kind of operations manager who is the person that's sort of in charge of the whole thing. You usually have a sound tech, maybe a separate light tech or somebody that does both. And then the different workers that handle things like tickets, the doors, the bar. The biggest difference, I think, is how in a theatre you have the volunteers. Very typically, the volunteers that show you to your seat and, you know, do all of the kind of help, administrative help. Whereas in a venue, you don't have people like this. Instead, you have security who are making sure that people aren't stomping on each other and just generally trying to keep the peace. Neither one seem to exist at the other.
I've been sick of us debating, now we're here to catch you dead. Religion always trying to be the kind of Deuteronomy. It all started with the Big Bang. Music and mythology, Einstein and astrology. It all started with the Big Bang. In Charlotte and Ian's words, the wonders of our universe. They all started with the Big Bang.
A stark difference I've definitely noticed as well is that the techs at a theatre seem genuinely happy, which my experience, obviously with exceptions, of venue techs, they're not usually that happy. They're sort of like that stereotype of the disgruntled, annoyed, sort of beat down venue sound tech. Whereas at the theatre it always seems to be some real chirpy person who, you know, will do everything they can to go above and beyond to help you out. They help you load in your gear, they help you set it up. You'll go to the toilet and you'll come back and all your gear's already there and it's on, and you think, what? Who did that? And the tech's there giving you a big thumbs up. I guess in venues, roadies are more commonplace, so, you know, the technician doesn't sort of have this as part of their job role. But the technicians at the theatres so far, they all seem to really love their jobs, which I can't say for all of the technicians I met in venues. No offence if you're a technician at a venue.
Firing out of oxygen, yeah, run away apart. tell which way is home. I've been gone for swords and empty love.
The structure of your working day or night, I guess, when playing a venue versus playing a theatre is definitely different. Again, though, there are a lot of similarities. I guess it's somewhat dependent on the type of show you're performing, but there are some obvious changes. For a start, a theatre show will run exactly on time. Exactly on time. There's no pushing back sound check and later start times and maybe late doors. There's no unexpected shows that go on till 1 AM and you're wondering what on earth you're meant to be doing and why you're there and whether life is really taking a good turn. If the show starts at 7 PM, then you are on stage at 7 PM sharp.
Run away in Mars. 3, 2, 1, I miss you. I'm sorry I got issues when I run away to Mars.
If the load-in for the matinee show is at 9 AM, then you show up to the venue, the theatre, at 9 AM. The staff will all be there, ready, waiting for you. There's none of that awkward, where are the people who we're supposed to be meeting? And who's the promoter for tonight? When it's on, it's on. I think, from what I have gathered, the time allocated to load in, set up, sound check at a theatre is slightly longer, it seems. Your day is slightly longer because of this. But it makes sense because there's more to set up typically, there's more to go through. I'm sure when you get to the level of playing venues where you've got a big production and maybe pyrotechnics and screens and all this, then it's probably about the same, probably no different. But from my old band life to now, the band would show up, you'd show up maybe an hour or 2 hours before the show started, you'd sound check, you'd sort of mill around, maybe get some food, and then the show would start and you'd be playing. Whereas the theatre show has a lot more to go through. You go through all the lighting, what's going to happen during the production, the different videos, the different music, the different bits of the show. Quite often these techs are learning your show on that day, on the day that you arrive. They're having to go through and there's tech sheets to run through and all sorts of lighting to set up. So it makes sense that there's a bit more time allocated, which is great if you're into it all. It is really fun.
Won't you come? Won't you come? Won't you come? Start a rain, cold and damp. Still the warm wind, tired friend. And times are gone, honest man. Sometimes way too long for snakes.
As I said, there's a whole host of similarities. A lot of the terminology is the same, load in, sound check. The equipment required is very similar. The sound check itself is the exact same sound check as you do at a venue. There's still stage times, there's still load-ins, there's load-outs. It's all the same.
Won't you come? Wash away the rain, black old sun. Won't you come? Won't you come? Black old sun, won't you come?
And then there's the show itself, which is definitely different. Again, it probably differs depending on the type of show you're playing. I imagine if you're in a covers act or a tribute act, then your theatre show and venue show might be exactly the same. I guess the main difference in a theatre situation is the audience are sat down. They're in like a cinema. In a venue, the audience is usually stood up. A venue audience might sing along, they might mosh, they might be crowd surfing, stage diving, they might be yelling out the lyrics at you as hard as they possibly can. Whereas a theatre, it's much more of like a applaud when they finish kind of affair. It's more of a spectator audience, whereas a venue is more of a participator audience. It's something that I'm getting used to playing these theatre shows, but it's also something that I tend to work on as this theatre show progresses. I definitely feel like injecting some participation into the songs and the performance because I love audience participation, man. That's what really makes a show.
Drown my fears, tell you all just disappear. Black hole sun, won't you come? Wash away the rain that goes on.
The flip side of all this, of course, is that at the theatre, the audience is paying their full attention to you. There's no distraction. You're not allowed your phone, you're not supposed to be recording or taking photos. There's no bar inside the venue to be going to. Sure, in the reception there is, but that's what the interval's for. The spotlight's on you and all eyes are fixed on you, which is honestly really cool. You don't have to worry about people interrupting you or talking over your song. You don't have to call forward the audience, you know, come forward, come towards the stage. There's none of that. Of course, it adds a little bit more to the pressure of the performance, because if you mess up, people probably will notice. Whereas at a venue, there are a bunch of people in that audience who do not care. They're there to see the other band or to have fun with their mates or, you know, stay at the bar all night. But a little bit of pressure is good. That's how you get good. That's how you dial in a performance. I imagine by the end of the year, as a performer, I will have learnt a dang hell of a lot. Perhaps the strangest part of the theatre show I'm playing myself, The Wonders of Our Universe, is the fact that I'm on and off stage. When you play in a band or as an artist in a venue, you usually have a set time of 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour or something, and you come on stage, you play your set, and then you come off stage and that's it, you're done. In this theatre show, I'm on at the beginning, then I'm off, and then I'm off for a bit, and then I'm on again, and then I'm off, and then it's the interval, and then I'm on, I open the second half, and I'm off again, then I'm on, and I come off, and then I'm on, and then I close the show, and it means your adrenaline's like, woo, and then down, and then woo, and you're kind of going through this roller coaster of emotions, and I'm trying to stay warmed up during this sort of times where I'm not on stage. It's surreal. It makes for an environment where you have to stay a lot more switched on. You can't just sort of go out there, do your thing, and then turn off. It's awesome. It's definitely teaching me a lot about me as a performer and, you know, just the wider scope of music.
And the hard roads out, I won't hurt you there. One day I look back and smile, and I know it was worth every mile, yeah.
And then the after show, the aftermath, once you've finished. The show comes to an end and the audience gives you a big applause. It's a good feeling. It's a very good feeling. I guess there's a lot less sort of cheering than you would get at a venue. It's much more of, like I said, a clap affair, which is cool, but again, it's definitely something I had to get used to. When I first played the theatre show, I didn't quite expect it. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense actually. Different, but not so different that you're not used to it. That's what I'd say. I think one of the most compelling differences to talk about is the willingness to go to the theatre versus venues. It's no secret that, at least here in the UK, and I think in a lot of other countries, grassroots music venues are struggling. They're struggling to stay open, they're struggling to be financially viable, so they're struggling to stay afloat, and they're struggling to get people through the door. People don't really go to gigs like they used to, especially when it's unknown bands, unsigned bands, bands they've never heard of. However, in a theatre, it's a completely different story. The amount of folks that show up to the Wonders of Our Universe show who are just like, I was curious as to what it was, I like science, so I just turned up. They've paid £20 for a ticket and maybe had their tub of little ice cream during the interval, and they're all the happier for it. It's wild because my old band, we'd struggle so much with empty venues, playing to just the sound guy or the 3 people that had heard of us in that town. Whereas the theatre still has that culture of, we're just going to take a chance on this. We like coming to our local theatre. It makes me wonder why. Why is that? What's going on in both worlds which means this one's working and this one isn't? Why is it that people will take a chance on a show they've never heard of but not a band or an artist? Why are people willing to support their local theatre but not their local venues? What's going on? Is there an opportunity here for the music venue world to learn from the theatre world? And is there an opportunity for us musicians to look more seriously into the theatre world? Is it worth putting our gigs on at venues? Maybe we should be looking to put our gigs on in a theatre capacity and maybe taking a bit from that world, making more of a show of our live act. All things that I think are worth thinking about. And this, of course, as the musician, does mean you get paid. A lot better than you do in the venue world, from my experience. If you're a musician who would like a career in music, I would honestly look very seriously into the theatre world. I really would.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. Well, I hope you had the time of your life. Thank you so much.
I don't have the answers to all these questions, of course, but I'm putting them out there because I think it's worth thinking about. There could be a few answers laying amongst all this theatre stuff that perhaps the venue world might be able to learn from. And there you go. Show's done. It's weird, it's like only 5 o'clock. Matinee shows, dude, that's so crazy. I was just like on stage, just having visions of like the first times I went busking down on Brighton beachfront. I end this show on a Green Day song that I've been playing for ages. Probably played it on that first day I went busking. And then I just play it in front of a load of people and they're actually paying attention and watching, and it's crazy, dude. This is my job. I'm just a musician who's found himself in this incredible opportunity. And don't get me wrong, it's no shortage of hard work. It's definitely a product of keep showing up. And I'm taking it all in and making these videos as a kind of ongoing observation. I'm learning on the job for sure. So everything I've said here, you know, take it and take what you want from it. I'm sure there's a grain of something you could learn from or just apply to your own journey. Growing up, when I was playing in bands and I had this idea of my music career ahead of me, I never considered the idea I could play in theatres. That never occurred to me. I had this very one-track mind when I was younger of, no, we need to play the toilet circuit, then we need to upgrade to the academies, then we'll get to the arenas, and then we'll be Green Day, then we'll be, you know, living that rock star life. But it didn't work out that way, and 8 years into my old band, I started to realise that and became discouraged and felt like maybe it wasn't going to happen. Maybe that's not the direction my life would take. And then the pandemic happens and I come up with this ARP concept, and I decide instead of worrying about how it's going to work and what it's going to look like, I'm just going to focus on the music, man. I'm just going to focus on being creative and trying to help other people who are also in the same situation as me. And I kept my heart open. I stayed open to the opportunities around me, and I found myself with a fully fledged music career doing something I love. Doing something that I've genuinely felt called towards my entire life. And I think it's so important to keep that open mind. The opportunities that are out there for working musicians, for people that really want a career in this, you don't have to become a barrister who plays in a band at the weekend. You really don't. That's what I'm trying to get across here. That's really what I'm trying to spread as a message. I think that we put our biggest barriers up ourselves. The real source to any kind of success, from what I've found in my journey, is getting out of your own way. And by doing so, you allow these monumental opportunities to come and find you. And who's to say that they don't lead to the very thing that you were dreaming of in the first place? I have this big dream gig of playing the Milton Keynes Bowl like Green Day did one day. Who's to say that this theatre show is not the path to that? It's got all the ingredients to be. And I guess the final conclusion is to come back to one of my favourite all-time quotes by Buddha, and that is, the goal is the path. Don't worry about where you're headed or what it will look like and how you're going to get there. It's great to have dreams, goals and ambitions, but really the main focus is to be on the path. That's what will matter most come crunch time. Did you walk the path that's true to you? Or did you veer off it because you were worried about something that doesn't really matter? I hope the message is clear. Thank you for watching yet another ARP video and spending some time with me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, maybe hit like. Maybe consider subscribing if you're new around here. If you'd like to leave me an online donation, there is a super thanks button, or you could be a bit more generous if you feel like it, and I do have a Patreon page. In return for exclusive content, it's a monthly donation. I also have an album out, it's called Keep Showing Up. It carries through that message that I keep reiterating. It's 10 songs, all originals by me. The only place you can get it is my website. Here's the link. There's a CD or a digital download version. If you buy the CD, you also get the digital download. Thank you so much once again. I'm August Radio Project. I make videos that come out every single Monday, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace, love, and happiness.